It's very easy to get caught up in the minutia and focus too heavily on things. You just can't do that. You have to just look at the basic overall picture. And one of the tricks that taught me that, I first moved out to Los Angeles. I was working with Giorgio Moroder, who is a very famous producer, musician, writer. He did all of these movies in the 80s. He did Breakfast Club and Flashdance and Top Gun and all these movies that were done in his studio. He would write and he would put down all these ideas, and he would set me up as an engineer, and he'd say, I'm going to dinner. I want 10 of those mixes on my desk when I get back. I'm like, you want 10 mixes in an hour while you're having dinner? He's like, yeah, you can do it. And he'd come back and he'd be like, where are my mixes? And I'd be like, I'm still on the first song. He'd like, too slow. So I almost got fired until I said, okay, I'm going to do it. So I just whipped through a mix and I go, okay, can I hear the vocal? Can I hear the drums? Okay, done, next, and move on, so I could get enough done. And what it really taught me is I could actually do it quick like that, and I could actually nail the song to the point that I was really focusing on the most important elements. If you push yourself, give yourself a time limit, and say, I'm going to do the best job I can in an hour and do a mix. Then come back the next day and listen and evaluate. Give yourself a few days and do it again. Give yourself an hour again. And pretty soon you'll train yourself to actually focus on the real important stuff and get something that actually sounds very close to a final product. General mixing concerns. So you have to be concerned about the sound spectrum of individual sounds and how they must work together to avoid frequency buildup and masking. So masking of one sound to another. If you've got a bass guitar and you've got a low end of a keyboard, you don't want those to mask each other. You want to be able to hear the definition in each. Sound position in the stereo field is really important. Methods of spectral building, ways to blend sounds. Each sound has its own spectrum, and it has its own balance of frequencies. So a kick drum has high frequencies and more low frequencies, but a cymbal has more high frequencies than low frequencies, but it has both. So you get well-balanced sounds, and then to blend those together is much more difficult than saying, okay, it's a cymbal, so it's supposed to be high frequency. So filter out all the low frequencies, get rid of them. And the kick drum is supposed to be low frequency, so filter out all the high frequencies and get rid of them. You assign each sound element to sort of a band of frequencies. Then they'll never really conflict with each other. A street way of hip-hop mixing, so to speak, whereas using every sound with a full spectrum and blending those is more of a pop songwriter way to mix. But both are very valid. You just don't want the frequencies in each sound to start covering up each sound so that you get all sorts of washiness between the sounds. You want to have distinction. Approach the mixing process with a creative viewpoint. There's times when blurriness in sounds actually lends itself to the actual picture that you're trying to create, the mood you're trying to create. There's another way to do this as well, which I think I discuss a little more when we talk about music production, and that is deciding when things play. So if you've got two instruments with similar spectrums, they don't have to play at the same time. So deciding when they play versus how you're going to filter their spectrum so that they can fit together. While I'm on that subject, I used to work with a producer who was a drummer, and he did a lot of the early Madonna records. And the way that he would program, he'd step time program everything in the sequencer. And the way he would do it is he'd do it like a drummer would think. He has one sound that plays on these beats, another sound that plays on these beats. So he would basically set it up so that no instrument was playing when the other ones were, pretty much. So he'd have a lot of syncopation in his programming, but it was really easy to mix because I didn't have to worry about things clouding and masking each other. They basically would never play at the same time. So there was plenty of sonic space that way too. But more on the mixing end, the sonic spectrum of building sound elements is extremely important in the mix. Sonic positioning, you've got left and right in panning, you've got front and back as well. Now that you know how sound behaves, how do you make a sound further away from you? How do you make a sound closer to you? Obviously, the closer to you the sound is, the more high frequency you'll be able to hear. Further away it is, the more it loses the high frequency in the traveling the distance to get to you. So the low frequencies have more energy, so those low frequencies will always reach you. So a sound that sounds duller, sounds further away, sounds that sound brighter, sound closer to you. And then you can always enhance that a little bit with a little reverb on the things that are further away and no reverb on the things that are closer. So you sort of have to recreate what it would actually sound like, and your brain actually perceives these things as further away and closer. And of course, something further away is going to be a little quieter and darker and reverbed, whereas something closer is going to be louder, brighter, and no reverb. So you've got sonic space forward and backward, left and right. You also have sonic space from low frequency to high frequency. The placement of individual sound elements, as I was mentioning, if you decide that your guitar player is only going to play on upbeats and the drummer is playing on downbeats, and nobody's playing in the same time positions, it's much easier to find the space for each element. But you can also decide that both guitar players don't have to play the same chord in the same inversion. One musician plays in first position, another musician plays in second or third position. They're in different parts of the spectrum, and it really helps to define them. There's a lot of ways to utilize the space that you have. Unfortunately, your sonic canvas is only so big. Everybody tries to create more space, and the reality is, just like the room I'm standing in, you can only fit so many people in the room. You can't just overcrowd and overcrowd and overcrowd. The party's great when there's enough people in here to make it a great party. When there's too many people, it's not a great party anymore.